Today at shopdap.com, we're going to be going over power folding mirrors on a MK7 GTI. Okay, so before we get into our install, let's talk a little bit about power folding mirrors, why you would do it, and the purpose of power folding mirrors. So power folding mirrors are most commonly found on little higher end cars and then higher line versions of MK7s in other parts of the world. They obviously give the ability to use a mirror switch that when you park your vehicle in a tight parking space, or really any parking space in general, you can then fold the mirrors up and in to allow you to prevent mirrors from being hit or being in the way for people walking past to potentially scratch them or whatever. So there are a couple different options for power folding mirrors. There are these set, which these are the Chinese OEM set. These are heated glass. They come with a white cap glass and then the mirror assembly as well as a switch. And then we have the OEM European version, which is for vehicles with driver's assistance package or blind spot monitoring, which means you have that little marker on your mirror which tells you when there is someone in your blind spot. Those are two different ones we offer. The factory European DAP driver assistance package mirrors do not come with the caps or the glass. They would have to be swapped over, but these Chinese OEM ones do. Both of them do come with a switch. The install is going to be pretty much the same for both of those models, with obviously potentially some variations in coating. We don't have any details specifically about coating the ones with driver's assistance package, but it's very likely that it's going to be the same coating for that vehicle. We will have a separate video for the coating, which we will link to here, where you can check that out as soon as it is available. So without further ado, let's get into our install. And hey, we just got these new shirts out, DAP University certified YouTube mechanic. So I'll also link those right here as well. You can check out the new DAP University t-shirts. Okay, so we're gonna start on our driver's side here. If you're swapping and you already have the mirror cap and glass assembly and you're leaving that in there, you would not need to do this. But I'm gonna go ahead and show you swapping the cap over, or really just taking the cap off. And something to note, when we did our original video showing mirror cap installation, we showed removing the glass. You actually can access it without taking out the glass. It's not very easy to see, which is why we didn't show it in that video. But you can access the mirror cap tabs by pivoting the glass down, and then it allows you to use a screwdriver to pop the tabs off and then slide the mirror cap off like so. So all you're going to be doing is prying on these. You should be able to see them kind of through the edge of the glass here. And this gives you the ability to obviously remove this cap. And then you can pop your glass off, as we've shown in that video, where it basically just pops off. You have to be super careful as you pop it off to make sure you don't crack the glass when you're swapping it over. All right, so now we're going to take our door panel off so that we can access our switch and replace it. So we're going to start by popping off behind this handle. Where we have our bone tool right here. We'll have links to this in the description below. This is a tool, a trim tool that allows you to kind of pop off trim like this without scarring it of any kind. One thing I want to note is there's a notch right here that allows you to kind of pop in. It's kind of cut out to allow this to get in there first. So that's going to be taking off that cover, and then we're going to remove the screws that are here. Now we're going to pop our T27 in here and remove this screw. Okay, so now we're going to take off this hidden T27 down here. You'll find it kind of underneath where the switches are in the door panel. One thing I want to note is this is a really long screw. So what you'll find with this really long screw is that most T27s won't reach it. In the Torx set that we offer, we have this bit that comes with it. This is actually for security Torx, but it allows you to put it inside of a socket. So we have an 8mm socket here. We're going to put the bit inside there, and it allows us to get kind of that long reach that you're not going to find from a normal Torx to get this out. If you don't have something like this, you'll either need a Torx screwdriver or again, this Torx set that we have, which we'll link to in the description below. Now our two Torx screws are out, and we have just this final one underneath here. And what we're going to be using on that is going to be a 10 millimeter, and it's just going to be a half turn to allow the door panel to pop past it. Now, once we have all the hardware off, we're just going to pull our door panel, and it just uses door panel clips to hold it on, which oftentimes will feel like you could end up doing some damage. Now, a lot of times what you want to do when you get this going is kind of pop it out a little bit, get it free from this set screw underneath here, and then you're going to get your fingers kind of underneath there, and then get it off the door, pop it loose. Okay, so now once we have our door panel popped off, you should see kind of it swing freely kind of out from the bottom. You'll still have a top edge here that kind of clamps on around the window. So what you want to do is kind of swing that out and then kind of pull that up. Keep in mind there's still a bunch of stuff attached to the door here, electrical stuff. And what you're going to do is pull it out like so. And then you're going to allow it to come out a little bit so you can detach all the electrical stuff on the inside here. And so as we do this, we are going to start disconnecting our electrical connectors and push down the tabs as we disconnect them, and then slide the connectors out of the place. Now this brown connector is going to be your mirror switch. Now if you're feeling up to it, you can probably just swap this switch out like this without having to disconnect everything on the door panel here. Okay, so here we are on the door panel. The door panel is kind of sideways this way, and we took off way too much so that we could show you guys the back side of this switch so you can get a good view as to what you're going to be removing. There are tabs around the edges of this to hold it onto the door panel, so you're going to kind of pop them up and then kind of allow it to come forward past the edge of the door panel. And then you're going to do that on the other side, and as you see, kind of as you push in and down, it will kind of release the switch assembly out of the panel. And as you can see, it kind of popped through there, and then we're going to pop it from the other side, and now we have that out. Now we have our switch assembly out, and we have to swap over this door lock switch to the new one. Okay, so we can see the back side here. This is our switch assembly, and we're going to be just popping it out from the edges here. It just has kind of these clips on the side that kind of hold it in place, and all you kind of do is put in there and kind of pry it forward like that, and it allows it to pop out. And you can do the same thing on this edge, which is going to be a little bit more challenging to show you just because the edge blocks it. But all we're doing is sticking in the screwdriver in here inside this edge, like so, and then you kind of pop it up like that. And as you can see, it kind of wiggles its way out, and just lock it back in there. So we'll pop it out again, and then we'll swap it over. And now we have our new assembly here, and to get that in place, super easy. Just get it lined up. And now, super simple. Now we have it out, we can just get it lined up. There are different size guides on the side of this switch, so something to be aware of. Obviously, it will have a specific orientation there, and just make sure that you have that lined up properly, and then you can just pop it in place. I would suggest maybe give it a little squeeze in the backside and make sure those latches are all the way in, because the last thing you want to do is reinstall all this, push on this switch, and then have it fall through on you because it's not latched all the way. Okay, so here we are. We're looking at the back side of the mirror assembly here, and there's a cover here that covers the mounting bolts for this mirror. So actually what it is, there is a kind of a nub that sticks through the bottom, and then there is kind of a clip that slides on the top. So what you can do is we're going to take our bone tool and kind of pry it backwards a little bit, and then we can lift it up and slide it off this clip. And as you take a look here, there's the clip right there, and then it slides onto this right here to mount that in place. And now we have access to our screws right here. Okay, now we're going to take this mirror assembly off, and we have our T30s here, and we're going to take them out. Keep in mind we're going to have to hold on to this mirror assembly because as we loosen this last one, this mirror assembly should start coming loose on us. So hold it in place. If you don't feel like you can do it on your own, have a friend. I'm kind of holding it with my hip here as I turn this out. And now we have our assembly coming out here. Okay, so here we are looking at our door control module here. If we take a look, this white grommet is the one we're looking at. And as you can see, it kind of just pops through here. And you can slide that red clip out. And then you pop the clip up. And then pull that connector out. Again, you're going to be looking to slide that out and then push down and pull it out to get that out. And then we're going to push this through. And we have our mirror assembly loose up here. So we should be able to go ahead and get that loose. So we should be able to get that loose once we get this green connection right here. There is a green locking tab that sits below here that has the harness kind of attached to it. And you have to pop it in, and it sits right underneath this door control module. And you just kind of work it in, pop the corners, and then push forward to get it through that door. Now, once that's through, we should be able to just slide this up and out. Okay, so we're ready to install our new mirror assembly here. We obviously have to get this wire down from here to here, and then obviously plugged into our door control module here. One note I want to make is that the window goes up and down in this door, obviously. There is a channel here which you actually have to make sure you run it through the correct side of the channel, which I'll point to here, where you can make sure that you get it around the door channel. You want to make sure it's not in the operation of the actual window track, which if you route it wrong through here, you're going to get the wire pinched between the window and the door frame here, which will obviously not allow your window to go up and stop obviously your mirrors from working properly. So we are going to take, we have this tool, it's a grabber, and we have that in place now. The one thing I want to mention is if you don't have a grabber tool like this, which you may not, you likely wouldn't, you can actually just substitute either a coat hanger or a snake or something of that kind that would allow you to perform the same essential function to do the same job without any major requirements of tools or anything like that. Take this grabber and use it to pull our wires down in place. And since obviously that worked pretty easy, this is going to be a simple way to make that happen. And we're going to pull this grommet through. Now, one thing I want to mention, we popped this wire, has that green clip on it that prevents it from sliding in and out of this window track. If you pop this big black grommet out of the way, it will allow you to pop it in from the back side here as we get that kind of mounted in place. So as we pull that through, just so I can try to visualize it, you're going to make sure you rotate that green clip in the correct direction and then slide it in place here, again right beneath this door control module here. And we got that now seated in place. Now when you get that in place, obviously we can just pop this grommet in And all we're going to do is kind of push that in place and make sure that it seats around the edges. Same thing goes for this one. Make sure that it seats in there. And then we can plug our module, our mirror into our module, and we're all set to reinstall our door panel. Okay, so one note I wanted to make before we proceed. In this case, we actually lost one of our door panel clips right here. It's stuck in the door. This will often happen as you pull the panel off. Some of them will actually pop out of the door panel and get stuck in the body of the car. What you would do in this situation is kind of pop it out and replace it and get a new one. We will have a link to replacement door panel clips in the description. Okay, so here we have our switch assembly, new one ready to go. And let's go ahead and plug these in. And then we'll snap this in place. Now we're ready to reinstall our door panel. Okay, so now we're going to get our door panel set in place. First, we're going to start by kind of lifting it up and over around the edge here. And that will allow us to kind of hook it in place. And then we're over the edge here where we can kind of sit it down in place. And you'll feel, if this is not in the right channel, you'll feel it kind of not be aligned properly. Now, you should be able to look around the edges here and see where the door panel clips actually hit inside the hole of the door panel. And so what you'd want to do is kind of look around to make sure that everywhere where they're supposed to be, that they're actually in the correct place. And then you can pop your door panel back in place. Again, if you just start smashing this door panel blindly, you're probably going to break some clips. So you want to make sure everything's lined up, and then you can kind of knock it in place. Now we're going to start by putting in our lower T27. Now we'll put our upper screw in place. And again, one thing I want to note is you should be able to look through here and see the threaded hole for these screws, both this one and the lower one. Obviously the lower one's a little bit harder to see, but you should be able to see those. And if you can't see them, then it means you probably have your door panel not lined up properly. So you will want to have that double checked if you do indeed find that to be the case. Snug that one up, snug that one up, and again, you don't need to go crazy. All we're doing is holding the door panel on here. Now we can reinstall our trim piece. You want to make sure there are 2 metal clips here. You want to make sure they didn't come off on this piece as you go. And then also one note, you have to kind of start by hooking this in place here like so, and then snapping it onto the door panel. Okay, now that all that is done, we can reinstall our Torx screws here. And I'm just going to start by threading them in. Now what I like to do in these situations is you can see where the bolts actually leave marks on the paint and the body of the vehicle. So what I would always try to do in these situations is these seem like you gotta apply a little bit of pressure down on this mirror assembly here, and that will allow it to kind of get in place all the way. So get as close as you can to that actual location, and then snug up your screws to kind of keep everything aligned the way it was originally. So what I did is actually kind of tilt up to get it towards the bottom, and then once it got close there, I snugged it up and then pushed down to get this upper one down. And then we're going to snug those up and pop our cover in place here. Now to pop our cover in place, again, we had this piece here. And so what I'm going to take this is slide it down, slide this piece down on top of it, and then I should be able to push it all in place. And it has this kind of adhesive strip also that kind of adheres to this edge here. So again, we're starting with sliding down. And there we go. Now, as we mentioned before, depending on the setup you have, you may or may not need to do this, but since we decided we're going to be swapping and showing all that, we're going to show you sliding this mirror cap on. And really what you need to do is kind of work it around the edge, and it kind of has a flex, and it sits kind of into a channel, and then you can kind of hear it snap in place as those clips get underneath here, and you can kind of eye it from underneath to make sure they're in place. And then we're going to grab our mirror glass assembly here. This is the OEM spherical European ones. The Chinese OEM ones come with one of these and the driver's side mirror, and then obviously the other ones don't come with any mirrors. They are heated, both of these mirror sets, so as you can see here, these are the heater wires right here. And so we're just going to slide those in place, and all we do to make that happen is just slide them onto their appropriate heating element tabs that are on here. Okay, so once you get those heating elements on, make sure you kind of push those wires back, and then we can just pop this mirror assembly on. And the one thing I want to note is, and I talked about this in the mirror glass install video, when you pop these on, you want to make sure you apply pressure evenly across the glass, because if you push it too far on one edge or the bottom or even in the center, you can end up cracking the glass. So you want to try to get even pressure, and they pop on pretty evenly, and you should be all set there. Also, one note that I mentioned in that video is if you push too far on one edge, sometimes it'll cause the glass to bow out, which means that when you look in the mirror, it actually is super distorted, not just a spherical on the outer edge, but the whole mirror will be distorted. And usually that's because you've pushed too hard on the outer edges, and it causes the mirror glass to bow. So you'll have to just pop it back off and set it back in place. Okay, so now that we've performed the installation of our driver's side assembly, we would do the same process for the passenger side. The only thing that's going to be different, obviously, on the passenger side is going to be the fact you don't need to install a mirror switch there. You will obviously do the same process of removing the door panel, removing the plug from the control module, running the wire, and then installing your new mirror assembly. Once you do that, you're going to have to perform coating, which again, we're going to do that in a separate video. But once you're done with the installation, and then after the coating is performed, your mirrors will look like this. And then back down. Thank you so much for watching our Mark 7 power folding mirror DIY install. If you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up and subscribe for more like it. And again, purchases for parts like this or any others help support videos just like this one. Okay, so before we start our install, let's talk a little bit about power folding mirrors. The purpose of power folding mirrors, son of a bitch. Mother